program can have on a community. What with everything going on in the world, price of gas, police departments have started curtailing the amount of just random patrolling police officers are allowed to do. And we've had the defunding of the police, which has made budgets tighter. It's also, we're taking active duty officers, putting them in schools. Not saying that's a good or a bad thing, but it takes officers off patrol. So therefore, you can only get so much with so little. Average response time in a big city is approximately 7 minutes. These are all according to statistics that I was able to pull off the U.S. government websites of various places. And they say the communities that do have and start an active neighborhood watch program have a 16% reduction in crime across the board. I can't think of a community that I would ever want to live in that wouldn't want to be have 16% less crime by doing simple thing like everybody watching out for their neighbors like we used to do. So let me get y'all's take on that. And for today, my name is Don. For those of you who don't know me, this is Rick, and that is Drew over there. So, gentlemen, I open up the floor to you all. Any comments?
Start the easiest thing in the world to even talk about is neighborhood watch. That if you know, again, going back, and I hate to even think about the way everybody says back when I was a kid, things were so different, but it was so different. The fact that when I grew up, you know, I never had a key to my own house because the door would always be unlocked. You know, now that's just unspeakable that you would even think about, you know, leaving your car unlocked or your house unlocked or your windows unlocked. And a neighborhood watch, well, all right, I'll give you a perfect case in point. When I first moved to this area, and I still had out-of-state tags on my vehicle. I purchased a house, and I was in the middle of doing construction on my house and remodel work, and I had a trailer and I had Florida plates, not on my truck, but just on my trailer as well. And so I made numerous trips back and forth to the dump until finally the police show up in my front yard. And the reason why they show up in my front yard is because the neighbors had called and said, well, you know, there's something odd activity going on because there's somebody around here without state plates and they're driving in and out of our neighborhood, and we know everybody who lives here, blah, blah, blah. So they didn't have a true neighborhood watch, but that was just great neighbors looking out for each other. Oh. And in that situation, now I think about it, that if I'm at work or if I was out of town, I was on vacation, or I was just, you know, out in town doing something, you know, that's a very comforting feeling to know that my neighbors are still watching my property and watching what's going on, which of course makes me buy more into even watching what's going on around them and making me more alert, which of course keeps you more in tune with what's going on in your own area.
Pays dividends all around.
Yeah.
Drew?
So, when I grew up, we always had a key, and it was always locked for the places I lived. Back in the day, I was a latchkey kid, where I had the key, went home, spent some time alone before the parents came home from work. So I've always kind of been in that, some areas where everybody watched out. I grew up in the military, and we had the American housing areas, and everybody knew each other. And so if you went out and did something as a kid, your mom was going to hear about it. Yeah. And as a teenager, when your deeds got a little bit more mischievous and devious, then you definitely got, you know, the MPs would show up at the door if you were, you know, so inclined.
Yeah, well, when I was growing up, we had Miss Barbara. She was the neighborhood watch, and you couldn't have anything happen in the neighborhood. She didn't know all about it ahead of fact, and if it was really bad, she would call the police. Yeah. But like where I come from, Prince George's County, Maryland, when I was a 12-year-old, I remember they had 421 police officers, and now they have 3,500 in the same exact county. And when I was a kid, you could sleep at night without hearing gunshots. Now you go up there, that's all they've got. They've actually got towers, and the towers triangulate the sound of a gunshot from where, you know, so they can tell where the shot went off and people can respond. Which is another thing, the response times, we touched on it, or I touched on it originally. Response times in a big city are, you know, anywhere from seconds to up to 9 minutes on average. Out here in the country, it can be as much as 45 minutes.
Well, we see the same thing. We have people that work with us and around us, and we have these daily conversations about these things. And you know, the response time is one thing, you know, and the call goes in, But unfortunately, when you cut back on the amount of patrol and the amount of active officers out there and the expanse of a county or an area and the amount of square mileage that these, you know, men and women gotta be on patrol for, you may have 3 officers that are having to deal with a single call because of an activity going on, whether it be a shooting, whether it be anything, you know, a break and entering, it could be a numerous amount of things. And those officers are tied up. And if there's only 2 officers on, if one officer has to leave, that other officer who's left there has no backup, and the officer going to that other call has no backup. And it's you know, that's a terrifying. There's no win in that situation at all. So with the defunding and then, you know, the response time, if it continues to go on the route that it's going, it just continues to get worse.
Yeah.
There's just no other way around it.
Right. So I think the biggest thing we could do is we have, you know, for every police officer, you have X amount of citizens. And if we all watch each other and we all become Mrs. Barber, for lack of a better word, and we look out, and we don't have to intervene. We don't want to go hands-on with anybody. We don't want to run around telling people they're under arrest. We want to just be the eyes for the community. Criminals tend to want to go for the weakest people, and they want to go for the easiest targets. That's why if you leave your windows open at night and the guy next door to you has his locked, chances are pretty good they'll break into his house before they break into your house. If you've got lights outside, chances are pretty, and your neighbor's house is dark, guess what? Same again. They like weakness and they like to get away with their crimes. There was a research done in District of Columbia, not saying we're the District of Columbia, that out of all of DC and all the violent crimes that have been committed, they were on average committed by less than 600 people. 87% of the violent crime were committed by 600 people in the city. Of those 600 people, 212 of them committed 48% of those violent crimes. Of those 200 and some, do you realize that all but 198 of them were out on bail, bond, or supervised probation when they committed further crimes? We have that problem here. We have prosecutors and judges that turn people back out onto the street before the police officer can get back out onto the street.
People with violent criminal history too.
Yes, and we have, as an example, a couple years ago, our store was attempted to be broken into, and both the gentlemen were out on bond for violent crimes. One was 2 attempted murders, one was a murder and violent assaults. But they were out on the streets, able to break into or attempt to break into a gun store and steal. Unfortunately for them, we had a surprise for them, as we do here. So please pick another store. Anyway.
Well, I think with the social stigmatism of becoming a police officer now and the pay and the resources they actually have at hand, they're ill-equipped half the time to even go up against the criminals they might encounter. And they got, you know, the bravery they show just going up and talking to the guy that's got the AR-15 shooting in the city limits is, you know, you gotta have a pair of brass ones to do that. Yeah. Not everybody, and it's just is what it is. Everybody is mistrustful of the police, but everybody has buy-in to their own neighborhood and their own community because you live there, your kids live there. You know, you don't want to come home and have that not be able to rest, not be able to feel safe. So whether, regardless of how you feel or whatever side of the law you're on, you have buy-in with your family and your own property to you know, look out for people and you don't gotta narc on people, but just your face showing up when you hear a noise outside is gonna deter a lot of people from doing, you know, with the camera.
Well, a good witness. I personally, I mean, there's a rhyme and a reason to why you bought the house, the property that you own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you found something appealing in that location, in that area, which is why you decided to buy it and live there, raise your family there, and continue to live there. You know, if you don't do anything to maintain what it is that you found appealing there, then you're not going to want to be there anymore.
Yeah,
and you're going to uproot and you're going to destroy everything that you put into what you have by buying into the area like you talked about. You're just going to enhance everything. You're going to enhance your own property. You're going to enhance your kids' upbringing and everything else. And hopefully do exactly what, you know, I feel that parents were supposed to be doing the whole time, which is giving your children a better envisionment and an easier and better life than what you had growing up. And so hopefully things would continue to progress and get better around time, you know.
And the other thing is that if we can make, as an example, Mullins and hopefully Marion County a better place to live and have you grow up and spend your time, then perhaps the bad people decide to leave and go elsewhere. I don't want to wish any ill will on Dillon or Florence or, you know, any other county around us, but I would prefer that they all the bad people leave and the good people can stay behind and have, you know, peace and quiet and not hear gunshots in the middle of the night, not hear, you know, not have to be afraid and triple lock everything. And you know, we all used to laugh at the TV shows that had the New York City doors, you know, where they have 12 locks on the door and the other side's welded, you know, and then they got bars on their bars and their bars are, you know, and, you know, you lived on the 3rd floor of hell and you had to walk downstairs and saw the obscene graffiti and all this kind of things. And I don't think anybody wants that. But the people, they prey on your fear and on the fact that nobody's gonna speak up. And I think it's time for the silent majority of law-abiding citizens in this country, and just law-abiding people in general, to speak up and start taking the country back and doing the right things. And maybe all of us need to have a little Miss Barbara in us and just pay attention. You don't have to be nosy. You don't have to know that your neighbor came back from some fancy store or not a fancy store. You don't need to know if you bought a new TV or not, but you need to see if somebody's beating him up in his front yard. Make a phone call. Take a picture. Be a good witness. Do something. My God, you could be next.
On the backside of all that too is, you know, not just because of where we work and what we do, you know, but the common ignorance that surrounds owning a firearm for personal protection. It expands so much further than a daily carry or a concealed carry or whatever it may be. Having a firearm in your home, all right, and it may terrify you to have a firearm. We deal with these stories every day. You know, there's some heartbreaking stories out there with some of these people, and it's disturbing. But there's something to be said about protecting yourself, you know, because you need to protect yourself and at least have something in your back pocket for the person that's going to come in to do ill will on you, your family, your property, your neighbor, or whatever it may be. And believe me, I hate to even think it, you know, but the old cat burglar that used to, you know, come into people's houses and he went in to steal your mom's jewelry and then whoop, disappeared, you know, out the window in the middle of the day. That guy doesn't exist.
No.
You know, and if that guy does exist, he's the guy now who will come and kick your front door down and walk in there and hold people at gunpoint and take what he wants with 15 to 20 other people, you know, and it's just.
And we had one of those right on Main Street in Mullins.
Yes, we
so
did.
During the day. So it's here. We're not in Mayberry anymore, if we ever were. And I would also like to declare Liberty Guns a safe place. So if you're a lady or a child or somebody's messing with you, or you get into some kind of road rage incident, if you pull into our parking lot, we will protect you up until such time as the law enforcement can get here and help you. Okay? You have my word on that. We are hereby a safe place. This place will protect the innocent. And we will do so until the law enforcement get here. We are not law enforcement, but we will do what we have to do to intervene to make someone safe. All right. I just want to throw that out as well. We're not looking for vigilantes. If we start this neighborhood watch thing, we're not looking for vigilantes. We're looking for people that have an interest in the community, that want to make things better, that want to be a good witness, and just see if we can get some of the, and I'll use the term vermin, out of the area and move them on somewhere else. Okay, because it's going to be easier somewhere else. I ain't messing with Mullins no more. I want to move on down the road to some place where they don't pay attention.
Well, and hopefully that'll trickle down to that place on down the road and they'll just continue to move on.
So everybody out there in the internet world, we know your time is valuable, so I think we'll knock it out for now. And if you got any ideas on future subjects, please give us a touch back on our Facebook page or our website, and we will see what we can do about coming up with something new and exciting for the next conversation.